So hi everybody, welcome to DIY Divas. For those of you who don't know what DIY Divas is all about, it's about learning about power tools, but it's more about understanding how to use those power tools so that when you actually get to doing a DIY job, you know what tool to use, you know what screws to use, you know how to fasten it together, so that at the end of the day when you make a project, you're making a project that doesn't fall apart. So what this workshop is going to do, we're going to introduce you to drill drivers, all the accessories you're going to use, all the attachments. You'll learn how to use other accessories as well to make making a project easier. Okay, so I'm now going to hand you over to Nancy.
The first tool I'm going to introduce to you and talk about it. It's a cordless drill driver. Why is it called a cordless drill driver? Because it uses a battery. If you look on your cordless drill driver, you will see a small screw. They use a slider. What do you use that slider for? It's power control or torque.
Nancy was just going over something now regarding the power slider, okay? Not all drill drivers have a power slider. Some drills, and more recent drills, actually have a dial on them, okay? Now, on here it says power control. On here it just says screw control. But emphasis here on the control part of it. When you go and use this in your screwdriver function, this one goes from 1 to 20. This goes low power to high power. So although it says power, it doesn't mean power, it means torque. And torque is turning power. So it's how much power you need to turn a screw. If you're using a small screw, you will require less turning power. If you're using a large, long screw, you're going to need more turning power. So when you take a drill driver out of the box, the best thing to do is to set it at 75%. If you put that setting in, the drill driver will tell you when you haven't got enough torque to turn that screw. And it's always better to say it's 75% when you use it the first time, because if you're putting a small screw in softwood and the power setting is too high, your screw is going to go right through the wood. A standard holder is what you're going to use for your screwdriver bits. So we're talking about using our drill driver as a screwdriver. Now, when you think about it, there's all different kinds of screws out there. We've got flathead, we've got Phillips, we've got Posi-Drive, we've got Robertson. If you don't want to have to keep changing the screwdriver bit every time you use it, the easiest thing to do is to get yourself a standard holder. Now, to use a standard holder, I want everybody to take your drills, okay? Hold it in front of you like this, and push this button in on the right-hand side. Push it in on the right side, going forward. Look at the little arrow there. Push it in on the left side, going backwards. Put it in the middle, and it's locked. When we push the right button in and hold the ring at the front, everybody do it. Hold this ring at the front of your drill driver and push the right button in and then go. You will see the jaws coming out here.
There's an arrow there.
Yes.
You press
The right, yes.
the right and then switch on the button. Hold the ring and
We need to put our standard holder inside. So what we're going to do is we're going to put it in, we're going to hold the front, and we're going to go forward. So we're going to press in on the right side and slowly close it. Can you hear it clicking? Wait until it doesn't click anymore, and then you know that's in tight. These were the first screws that we used with our power drills. But power drills got faster. So these bits kept popping out of the screws. So they had to look at a way of designing a screw that would hold the bit firmly. That's where the posi drive came in. It's got 2 straight channels and it's got a sharp angle at the bottom. So when you put your screwdriver bit in, holds it firmly in place. Okay, so now.
Can I show them the Phillips screw so that they know the difference when you're showing them
Yeah.
the picture? Okay.
Okay, now if you look at the screws you've got there,
And the one that I'm going to,
you will see they all look like stars.
this is a Phillips.
Yeah, you can pass that around so you can see. But look at the screws there in front of you. You will see that they all have like a little star effect on them. Okay? So that means these are posi screws. If it doesn't have that little star markings on it, it's a Phillips. But the nice thing is you can use a posi drive screwdriver bit in a Phillips screw. Okay, but you can't use it vice versa. All right, so if you look at that screwdriver bit you've now picked out, the one with the sharp sides and the pointed top, look on the side of it and you'll see it says PZ2. That means it's posi drive size number 2. Now, here's a nice thing to know, and this is my little secret. You're really going to only need the PZ2. You're never going to use a PZ1, or very, very rarely, and also very rarely PZ3 or PZ4. Because the PZ2 design fits into most of the screws we use today. We're going to make a hole in our little blockies of wood, and then we're going to put our screws in and make sure we do it the right way so that we don't strip the top of the screw. Nancy's going to give you all a drill bit, but when you're using it, you'll see how small it is. When you're holding your drill to drill what we're going to do now is called a pilot hole, don't bend the drill driver because you'll snap the drill bit. So when you go in, keep it straight. When you come out, keep it straight. Why do you need a pilot hole? Can anybody tell me why you need a pilot hole? To guide you, to make it easier. The hole is there. If you drill a straight pilot hole, your screw will go in straight. Another reason you want a pilot hole is to stop the wood from splitting. Think about it. If you just put a screw into a piece of wood without a pilot hole, you're creating pressure inside that piece of wood. That pressure has to go somewhere. So it's going to pop at the seam. So if you're close to an edge and you're putting a screw in without a pilot hole, the edge is definitely going to split. If you're putting into pine, not really hardwood, but most of your softwoods, pine, Meranti, Saligna, any of those, if you don't put a pilot hole in, the pressure has to go somewhere. So always drill a pilot hole. How do you know what drill bit to use to make a pilot hole? If you've got a 4mm screw, the pilot hole must be smaller. Must be 2, 2.5 or 3mm. Whatever screw you use, the pilot hole must always be smaller because you still want the screw to have something to bite into. Otherwise it's just going to be loose. So my standard is get a packet of 2.5mm drill bits, and that will serve for everything. It really will. Don't need to buy a whole collection of them. 2.5 or 3mm drill bits, perfect for most projects. We are going to be using our drill driver on drill function. Okay, so you're going to turn it to that little picture of the drill bit. Remember, we're going to do the full power, but before we do that, we have to take out our holders. It's important to remember we're using it now as a drill. So we don't use the forwards and backwards buttons. We go in on forward and out on forward. So we go like this. We go in and out. Before we can put our screw in, there's something else we have to do, okay? And it's called a countersink bit. What a countersink bit does is, if you just had to put a screw in now, it would sit on top of the wood. Not so much in pine, because pine is a soft wood, but if you're making projects and you're using MDF or superwood, or plywood or hardwood, if you don't use a countersink bit, the screw head will always sit on top of the surface. So we need something that takes the screw away from the surface. In other words, we need to sink it below the level of the counter, which is why it's called a countersink bit. So now with a countersink bit, you make a small depression or V-shape in the wood, and when you put the screw in, you don't see it on the top of the wood. Now we've taken our drill bit out, put it on reverse. Press the left side in, put it on reverse, hold the front, and open it up a little bit more so you can put the countersink bit in there. It's really very simple. You're just going to put it on there, and it's going to make a depression. How big does this have to be? It has to be as big as the top of your screw. So in other words, you're going to use your screw to determine the size. Now, you need to put your screw in there. So now you're going to, again, lefty-loosey to take this out. Then you're going to put your standard holder back in again. Okay, put it in there and tighten it by hand. When you're using this, and by the way, make sure it's on screwdriver. Ah, you see, you didn't put it on screwdriver yet. Set it for 75% on a dial, or about 7 or 15, depending on what torque control you have on your drill driver. Now, when you're doing this, you're going to need to exercise control. So don't just put it on the screw, and in fact, I'll show you what happens if I do this. It's going to go deep, deep, deep down the hole. Okay? The best way to do it is to take your screw, and you're going to hold it with your fingers. Just put it in the pilot hole there, and then short bursts till I get to where I want it to be, and then I stop. When you over tighten a screw, you're stripping the hole where the screw is. So the screw's got nothing to bite into. So you have to have control so that as soon as you know it's in that hole, stop. That's it. Stop. You can give it one more turn. Here we go. Okay. Oh, you've done it. Okay. Okay, now go in there.
Here.
That hole, yeah. Put it on forward.
Yeah.
Okay.
Forward is
Forward.
right.
Okay. You're managing fine.
Oh, you need to really control it, not to hold it tight for it to
Yes.
move in straight, because I can see.
That's it.
I'm not-
Okay, there we go. Perfect. Okay, the next thing we're going to talk about is using your drill driver with different attachments. And one fun attachment that I actually use a lot is called a spade bit. Okay? It's called a spade bit basically because it looks like a spade. You get them in all different sizes, and you'll notice here that I've got a black one and I've got just a normal silver one. You pay a little bit more for the black one. It's called the professional range. The black ones are hardened steel, so they're going to last a lot longer. And I'll come around and show you as well, because, well, you've got them in front of you. You'll see that the black ones have a little lip on the side of them. Look on either side there, you'll see a little lip. What that does is it gives you a nice clean hole. As you're drilling the hole, it's cutting the edge as well and making it nice and neat. These ones don't have it. There's no little lip on here, and they're not hardened steel. So if you're going to buy them, make sure you buy the black ones. It's a Torque Craft brand. And when I say they're more expensive, they're still flipping cheap. Okay, these are probably about 60 bucks, and these are probably about 70 bucks for a pack of 5. Now you're going to put your spade bit in there, and you're just going to close it up. And you're going to make sure it's no more clicks. You're going to be making, it's sort of like a little plant holder. But I mean, when you go home, you want to try something different, you can always flip it over and make a candle holder if you want to. The whole idea of this project is to get you using the drill driver and also using the spade bit. Now, I must point out safety first when you're doing this, okay? Hold your candle holder, hold your piece of wood, okay? If you don't hold your piece of wood and you put the spade bit in there, it's going to spin. So always hold it in your hand while you're drilling the hole with the spade bit. Okay, normally we'd use clamps, but unfortunately these tables won't accommodate clamps, so bad move. Right, now, we're using our drill as a drill, not as a screwdriver, so you're gonna put it on full setting, okay? Also making sure you're pressed in on the right so that it's gonna go forward, not backward. When we're drilling our holes, we want to put 3 holes in here, or you can put 2 holes or 1 hole, whatever you want to do. 200 divided by 3, everybody? 66.6, 66.6, and 66.6. When you're using a spade bit, again, just make sure you're on drill, make sure you're going forward. Control is good when you start, but once you've started the hole, you need to go to full power. So I'm gonna start off by putting it where my mark is. Don't wanna go full speed yet. I wanna make sure that surrounding hole is nice and clean, not all chipped away. And I'm holding it, pushing it down. Okay, now I can go full power. See. And a little tip as well, watch my posture while I'm drilling the hole. So instead of taking the power from here, I'm taking my strength from here. So you just put your shoulder in and push down. Okay, give it a try, guys. When you're drilling the hole, I noticed that Ashton batted a little bit as well. Sometimes it tends to rip a little bit, and you think, what am I doing wrong? Why is it ripping? If you actually look at this piece of wood, this piece of pine, okay, you see all these lines going through here like this. This is the grain of the wood, and it runs all the way through this piece of wood, all the way. So when you're going through the pine and it's smooth, you're hitting the light color. When it's getting bumpy and it's ripping a little bit, you're hitting the resin. So it's nothing to be worried about or anything like that. Just exercise a little bit of caution. I do like to give my drill a little bit of a wiggle while I'm using it, and it takes the ripping away a bit. But I mean, you can still get a beautiful clean hole just by doing it the right way. So hi everybody, that was our DIY Divas workshop. We hope you enjoyed it. We hope you learned something from it. And please don't hesitate to get in touch with us if you need more information on power tools or DIY.